Sun was setting over the tall glass building, casting long shadows across the pavement. Lucas stood in front of the entrance, his hands stuffed deep in his pockets. It was a busy day, as it always was in the heart of the city. People rushed by, lost in their own thoughts, their phones glued to their ears, yet Lucas felt like he was in a bubble. His eyes were fixed on the revolving door, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. Today was the day he was meant to start his new job. He had been waiting for this moment for so long. For months he had applied, interviewed, and practiced every possible question they could throw at him. He was ready, yet a knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. With a quick push, he stepped inside. The lobby was grand, filled with polished marble and modern art. He made his way to the elevators, his heart racing a little faster with each step. This was it. As he waited for an elevator to arrive, his mind wandered back to the long nights he had spent preparing for this opportunity. The sacrifices he made, the friends he lost touch with, all in the name of this moment. The elevator door slid open, revealing a woman already inside. She looked up, surprised to see him standing there. Without thinking, Lucas reached forward, holding the door open for her. "After you," he said with a smile. She replied, stepping in. As the doors closed behind him, he felt a wave of warmth wash over him. Small acts of kindness mattered. Maybe he could bring that kind of energy to this new place. As the elevator ascended, the woman made small talk. "I'm just heading up to the marketing department. Exciting stuff." Lucas hesitated, his confidence wavering. "I'm starting in IT," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. She replied, genuinely happy. "This building is amazing, becoming a great place to work." He smiled back, but the words only made the knot in his stomach tighten. What if he didn't belong here? What if he wasn't good enough? Just then the elevator dinged. The doors slid open to the 6th floor. The woman stepped out, turning to him. She said, waving as she walked away. Lucas nodded, but his mind was already racing again. He took a moment to compose himself before stepping out. As he moved down the busy corridor, he felt the weight of every step. People were bustling around him, and the laughter and chatter filled the air. He could feel his heart pounding louder. He swallowed hard, trying to keep his breathing steady. Each door he passed had names on it: directors, managers, associates. He wondered how many were like him, stepping into this world for the first time, feeling the same mix of excitement and fear. Would he be able to make his mark here? It was strange seeing his name there, bold and strong. He frowned for a second, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief. He was here. This was real. Pushing the door open, he found himself in a small but cozy office. 2 desks sat side by side. One was empty, while the other was shared by a friendly-looking man with glasses. He looked up and smiled brightly. "Hey there." "Yeah, that's me," Lucas replied, feeling a little more at ease. "I'm Michael," the man said, extending his hand. "You're gonna love it here." As they talked, Lucas could feel the tension slowly lifting. They chatted about the role, their favorite movies, and how they got into the field. The more they laughed, the more Lucas realized he did belong here. Days turned into weeks, and the city continued to pulse with life. Lucas settled into his routine. He learned the ins and outs of his job, tackled challenges, and even started making friends. There was a sense of comfort now. The office was buzzing with energy, and he found himself reveling in it. But one late afternoon, as he was finishing up a project, an urgent message pinged on his screen. The network was down. Panic bubbled in his chest. He had prepared for technical issues in theory, but now it felt all too real. He quickly grabbed his phone and dialed the tech line. "Lucas, you've got to handle this," came the voice on the other end. "We have people waiting." His mind raced. He could hear the bustling laughter of his coworkers outside his office. The camaraderie that usually warmed him felt overwhelming now. Could he really solve this? Taking a deep breath, he stood up and walked towards the common workspace. His palms were sweaty, and he wiped them on his pants before addressing the group, trying to sound confident. "Hey everyone, I'm going to get the network back up." Their eyes turned to him, some with worry, others with hope. Lucas took a deep breath. He stepped into the server room, the familiar hum of machines surrounding him. The lights flickered and blinked, alarms echoed loudly, but he was prepared. He focused on the screens and began troubleshooting. It felt like diving into a deep lake. The pressure was immense, but he had to figure it out quickly. Minutes felt like hours. His heart raced, but slowly the codes and screens started making sense. Piece by piece, he combated the chaos, keeping his thoughts clear. Just as he thought he was getting nowhere, everything suddenly came together. After clicking one last button, like a magic spell, the lights stopped flashing. The hum quieted down to a soothing resonance. The network was back. Rushing back to the main area, Lucas heard the collective sigh. By the time he reached his desk, a cheer erupted. Someone said. Lucas felt a rush of emotion. The warmth of their approval lit up the room. The knot in his stomach that had haunted him since he first set foot in the office began to unravel completely. For the first time, he truly felt like he was part of something bigger. Over the coming months, Lucas would often think back to that moment. It was a turning point, a moment where he truly found his footing. Every day became a little easier. He made it a point to help others who seemed lost. He remembered how it felt, stepping into that unknown, the way it had felt to hold the elevator door for someone, and how small gestures could ripple out. His office was not just a place with his name on the door anymore. It became a part of him, a chapter in his story. One day, as he walked through the busy lobby, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye, a large plaque hanging on the wall, engraved in shining letters. He stopped, frozen in place, his heart swelled. The moment echoed through him like a gentle wave, a reminder of how far he had come. All the late nights and hard work were worth it. He felt proud, not just of the recognition, but of how he had grown, a journey from uncertainty to confidence. Realizing people were still filing past, he stepped away from the wall, a smile breaking onto his face. He thought about the woman at the elevator, how small moments had the power to make a difference. Standing tall, he moved towards the elevators again, ready for what the future would bring. What was once a nerve-wracking climb had turned into a path of hope. He was excited to see who he would meet next, what doors would open, and how he could continue to impact others in this ever-evolving story of his life. He stepped into the elevator, holding the door for an older man who approached at the last moment. As the doors started to inch closer, he smiled and nodded, knowing that sometimes it all begins with holding the door open. The elevator doors were about to close when he saw her, a blur of movement and a panic-stricken face. Lucas reached out, his hand connecting with the metal just before it sealed shut. He called out, adrenaline coursing through him as he pressed the button to keep the doors from closing. The woman stepped in, breathless and grateful. "Thank you," he smiled, feeling a sudden rush of warmth. As the doors slid shut, they were both trapped in the quiet hum of the elevator. It was just the two of them, her purse dangling at her side, and he felt a push of curiosity about the stranger. He asked, trying to make small talk. 15, she replied, glancing at her watch. "Good luck," he said, raising his eyebrows. The elevator began its ascent, a gentle jolt that signaled their climb into the heart of the building. But inside Lucas's mind, another climb was happening, a shift of thoughts and hopes that collided. He had just started his job here in this towering glass building, a city landmark that seemed to scrape the sky. Today was supposed to be an ordinary day, but in this moment he felt more alive. She asked, looking him up and down, measuring him. "Yeah," he replied, a hint of nerves creeping in. "Just started in it." "Nice, I'm Rachel, by the way," she said, extending her hand. "Lucas," he replied, shaking her hand. The connection was electric, momentary friendships forged in the confines of confined spaces. As the machine pushed them upward, Lucas found himself thinking about how intense the city could feel, busy, chaotic, yet alive. Each day, thousands of lives collided in this building, everyone racing towards something. What if he could be part of that rhythm? What if today changed everything? Finally, they reached the 15th floor. The doors opened with a soft ding and Rachel stepped out, her whirlwind of energy pulling him along momentarily. She said, a smile breaking across her face. As the doors began to close, Lucas nodded, the warmth of her smile lingering with him. The elevator descended without her, empty now. As he stood there, he felt an unexpected pang of sadness. He took a deep breath, shook it off, and prepared to face his day. But everything around him felt more significant now. Maybe it was the encounter with Rachel, or the way the world felt at that moment, but Lucas couldn't help but feel a shift in the atmosphere, like life was nudging him to open up, to take bigger risks. He stepped out onto his floor, greeted by the glow of overhead lights and the hum of people tapping away at their keyboards. As he made his way to his desk, he caught a glimpse of a large mural mounted on the wall. It featured a sweeping view of the city skyline, vibrant and alive, the setting sun kissing the buildings in gold, but his attention was drawn to something else. His mind raced. Was that a coincidence? Surely there were many Lucas Changs in the world. Was this some strange sign or coincidence? He felt a cold sweat build, the realization creeping in more slowly than it should have. His name, bold and clear, put there like a marker in the universe just for him. He blinked, grappling with the sudden rush of emotion. Could it be that this space, the laughter and camaraderie, the late-night projects, and every small victory was meant for him? But doubt crept in. He whispered to himself. Later that day, while tackling some endless lines of code, a familiar voice popped up beside him. It was Rachel, and she had a stack of papers in her hands. "I'm really glad you caught the elevator with me." Lucas felt a warmth wash over him at her enthusiasm. As they exchanged small talk about their respective roles, he could feel the weight of his earlier discomfort lifting. With her, he felt more at ease, someone who understood what it felt like to navigate the pressures of work life. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, a camaraderie forming between them, layer by layer. But then reality tugged at him again. He thought back to his name on the mural. Did he really belong here in this towering building, surrounded by so much success? Days turned into weeks, and those moments with Rachel became something he cherished. They shared lunch breaks filled with laughter and insights, muttering inside jokes, each encounter inspiring a flicker of confidence in him. Lucas began to bloom in this environment, but still couldn't shake the weight of self-doubt that held him back at times. One late afternoon, the office was unusually tense. The network crashed and several teams were left stalling. Lucas's palms got sweaty the moment an urgent call came through. "Lucas, we need you to take care of this." The tension in the air pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. Was this his moment to shine, or a path to make a critical mistake? He took a deep breath. There was no turning back. He rushed to the server room, the hum of machines enveloping him in a suffocating embrace. Fingers flew across the keyboard, chasing after the source of the issue. Code flashed before his eyes and time began to blur. Panic rose and mixed with determination. This was it, the proving ground. Minutes turned into a blur. He could hear the muffled voices outside, waiting for a resolution. Anxiety swirled inside him, wrapping around his heart like a vice, but he shook it off. He had come too far to back down now. He had to believe in himself. Suddenly, everything fell silent. He found the glitch. With the final flick of his fingers, he rebooted the system. One moment of stillness, and then suddenly a series of pings erupted all around him. He heard cheers from outside the room. The network was back online. Lucas burst through the door, adrenaline pumping through his veins like wildfire. The relief on his colleagues' faces was overwhelming. He was greeted by applause, a wave of gratitude washing over him. Rachel was there, her eyes bright. She shouted. In that moment, he realized he had stepped into his power. The knot of self-doubt that had wormed its way into his heart began to unravel. Each beat of applause was a reminder that he was not just an employee, he was Lucas Chang, and he mattered. Weeks continued to roll by in a heartbeat. Lucas found himself making more connections, building lasting friendships, and even presenting at meetings. The once big tasks didn't feel daunting anymore, they became part of a growing journey. One evening he walked through the lobby after leaving, the sun painting everything in deep hues of orange and pink. He couldn't help but pause in front of that mural again. He stood before the words Lucas Chang, letting them soak in for a moment. He smiled, remembering how far he'd come since holding that elevator door. It had shifted everything, the kind gesture, the unexpected connection with Rachel, the patience that had finally turned to confidence. Staring at his name on the mural, something clicked in him. The fragments of doubt that had fogged his path began to drift away. This was more than a job, a title, or even a recognition. It was the beginning of his story, a story of resilience and growth. His eyes lined along the horizon outside, the expansive skyline now feeling like a canvas ready to be painted with his dreams. He turned, ready to dive into whatever awaited him next. Stepping through those revolving doors, he knew he had claimed his place in this busy city, his name etched into its essence, marking the start of many more chapters to come. The doors of the elevator were gliding shut when Lucas saw her. He didn't hesitate. With a quick, instinctive motion, he reached out, catching the door just in time. He shouted, pressing the button to reopen the doors. The woman rushed inside, breathless yet grateful. "Thank you," he shrugged, a smile creeping onto his face, suddenly aware of the jolt of electricity that seemed to spark between them with that one small act. It was just an elevator, but in that moment it felt like an adventure poised to unfold. As the elevator began its ascent, he glanced at her name tag Rachel. She seemed like a whirlwind, her energy lighting up the small space. He asked, breaking the silence. She replied, tapping her fingers nervously against her purse. "Nice," he said, trying to sound more casual than he felt. Inside, he was spiraling. This encounter felt significant, like a sign. Rachel's presence radiated confidence, and it sparked something inside him, a flicker of hope, maybe even ambition. The elevator hummed softly, rising toward the 15th floor. She asked, peering at him curiously. "Yeah," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "Good luck." "It holds us all together," she said, her smile turning warm and genuine. "I'm in marketing." As the elevator dinged, the door slid open and she stepped out, her energy spilling into the busy corridor. Lucas felt an unexpected tug of sadness as the doors closed behind her. In that brief exchange, he felt a connection he hadn't anticipated. But as the elevator descended, the wave of warmth faded, replaced by familiar uncertainty. He had just started this job at one of the tallest buildings in the city, a place he had always admired from the street. The dream of working here felt surreal, but ever since he had stepped inside, self-doubt crept into every corner of his mind. Every person seemed so assured, so capable, and he felt like an imposter, the new kid still trying to figure out his place. As he exited onto his floor, he was engulfed by a backdrop of clattering keyboards and animated conversations. The buzz of excitement filled the air, pushing him toward his desk like the tide. He sat quietly, trying to focus on his work, but his mind wandered back to Rachel, her spark and kindness. It was as if she brought a bit of the outside world into his quiet bubble. A few hours later, the day started to blur into a stream of tasks. He was focused and determined, yet the knot of anxiety remained, hidden in the pit of his stomach. Every time he glanced up, he saw names on the doors of his colleagues' offices, directors, managers, all seasoned professionals. Then he turned a corner and caught sight of something unexpected. A mural hung on the wall, capturing the vibrant skyline of the city, those towering buildings, the very ones that had once felt so far from his reach. But there it was, his name, Lucas Chang, elegantly engraved at the bottom of the piece. He froze, struck by the rush of emotion. This couldn't be right. He blinked, shook his head in disbelief. Why was his name on the wall? It felt surreal. Had he somehow imagined it? The thought of being recognized, even in such an impersonal way, collided against the self-doubt he carried. Was this a sign that he truly belonged? Later that day, as Lucas sat hunched at his desk, staring at his computer screen, the familiar hum of the office faded into the background. Rachel's vibrant spirit lingered in his mind. It made him question everything, his purpose, his aspirations. This was a place filled with potential, yet he was still tiptoeing through uncertainty. Then out of nowhere, another message flashed aglow on his screen, a notification about a tech emergency. The network was down, leaving several teams stranded, their work halted. Lucas's heart raced in response. Came a voice from outside his office. It was his boss, a sharp and dynamic woman who seemed to command rooms. He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Everyone was looking to him. Could he handle this? He grabbed his laptop and hurried to the server room, panic bubbling up. The air felt thick and electric, as if charged with every expectation, every hope and fear. He closed the door behind him, shutting out all distractions. His palms grew sweaty against the cool keyboard as reality set in. This was his moment. He stared at the monitors, flashing error messages, each one demanding urgent attention. Focus, he thought, trust yourself. He began typing furiously, the sound echoing in the silence like a heartbeat. The minutes ticked by agonizingly slow, each second adding to the pressure building inside him. It felt like an eternity, but determination surged within him. He was not just a bystander, he was part of this, it mattered. Somewhere along the way, he found the solution buried under layers of code. He felt a rush of empowerment as the panic faded, replaced with clarity. The computers rebooted, and with that sound of victory, so did the office cheers erupted from outside the server room. Lucas stepped out, heart pounding, awash with adrenaline. The reaction was electric. Colleagues clapped, some cheered, and among them stood Rachel. Her face glowed with pride. In that moment, everything shifted. Doubt was swept away on a wave of accomplishment. It wasn't just about fixing a problem. It was about proving to himself that he could face challenges and succeed. Days flowed into weeks, and Lucas found a rhythm. Each task became a stepping stone, building his confidence piece by piece. He gained friends, formed connections, and learned to embrace the chaos of the busy city and bustling office. There were moments of doubt, of course. Changes in projects, deadlines, and the competitive energy of the workplace sometimes stole his confidence. Yet every time he felt that familiar not returning, he would glance at the mural. Lucas Chang, it read, a reassurance, almost a mantra, grounding him in a way he hadn't expected. One quiet afternoon, Rachel approached him while he was sipping coffee. She asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Her request lit a spark in him. He replied, eager. They spent hours brainstorming and collaborating, laughter punctuating their hard work. Lucas realized they made a great team. Her creativity complemented his analytical mind. As they conversed, he marveled at how far he had come. Once a timid newcomer, unsure about everything, he now found himself engaged and relaxed, bouncing ideas back and forth. Weeks turned into months. The seasons shifted outside, but inside, Lucas was in full bloom, learning and growing with every experience. Yet there was a moment looming ahead that sent a shockwave through the office: an annual team retreat, a chance for everyone to showcase their projects. As the day approached, Lucas felt the familiar wave of anxiety wash over him again. Was he really ready to stand up in front of everyone, to share his ideas when experts surrounded him? The fear of rejection clawed at him, but this was also an opportunity to elevate himself, to share his voice. The night before the retreat, he stood in his apartment, staring at the city skyline that twinkled like stars in the dark. He took a deep breath and placed his hand over his heart. What if he had something valuable to offer? What if sharing his story could inspire others? He thought back to the moment he held the door for Rachel, the small act of kindness that had led to their connection. If he could take that leap, step out of his comfort zone, maybe there was something waiting for him on the other side. The day of the retreat arrived, and the atmosphere in the conference room was filled with anticipation. Lucas stood at the back, heart pounding as he waited for his turn. Each voice echoed with power and authority, igniting a courage deep within him. When his name was called, he stepped forward, feeling the energy of the room shift as all eyes turned to him. The knot tightened, but he pocketed the fear, recalling the name on the mural, and began to speak, pouring everything he had into those moments. His voice found its rhythm, and as he shared insights and ideas, he could see sparks lighting up in his colleagues' eyes. The world around him faded away, and he was lost in the connection, the shared excitement, the exchange of thoughts. As he finished, a wave of applause erupted, filling the room with warmth. Eyes bright with admiration met his gaze, and he beamed back at them. In that moment, he was no longer just Lucas the new guy, but Lucas Chang, a contributor, a creator. He had truly found his place. The retreat concluded, but the impact lingered. Conversations flourished long after, and Lucas found himself at the center of discussions, weaving in and out of ideas, encouraged and celebrated. His identity as the hesitant newcomer transformed into a pillar of the team. And as he walked back through the lobby, through the mountains of marble and glass structure, he paused in front of that mural once more. It glowed back at him like a beacon, now radiating warmth instead of doubt. He had stepped into his power, found his voice, and embraced every opportunity life presented. He turned and walked away, ready to face whatever came next. This chapter had opened, but there were still more pages to write, more stories to tell. With a smile, he headed to the elevator, embracing the adventures waiting beyond those doors, ready to hold them open with trust and courage. The elevator doors were just about to close when Lucas spotted her. Panic flashed across her face, and without a second thought, he lunged forward. He shouted, pressing the button to keep the doors from sealing shut. She slipped inside just in time, breathless and grateful. "Thank you." As the doors closed behind them, Lucas couldn't help but smile. There was something about her energy and urgency mixed with warmth. He asked, trying to sound casual, but a part of him was alive with curiosity. 15, please," she replied, glancing at her watch. The elevator hummed softly as it began its ascent. "I'm Lucas," he said, extending a hand. "Rachel," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. There was a spark in that moment, palpable and electric. "Welcome." With each passing floor, Lucas felt a strange thrill. Here he was in one of the tallest buildings in the city, standing next to a woman who seemed so confident. Just a few weeks ago, he was waking up in his small apartment, unsure of his place in the world. Now he was in motion, in the heart of it all. The elevator pinged softly as they reached the 15th floor. Rachel stepped out, but not before turning back to him. She called, her voice echoing down the corridor as she disappeared into the bustle of office life. The door slid closed behind her, and Lucas felt an unexpected wave of loneliness wash over him. As he made his way to his desk on the 8th floor, he thought about that brief connection. It was just an elevator ride, but somehow it felt like so much more. He navigated through the maze of cubicles filled with busy employees, their fingers dancing across keyboards. Lucas settled into his space, trying to shake off the disconnection he felt. Still fresh in his role in IT, he was determined to earn his place in this fast-paced environment. As he dove into his work, a sudden thought struck him. He recalled a mural he had seen near the entrance. The sweeping city skyline beautifully displayed, radiating the vibrancy of life. He had glanced quickly at it but hadn't thought much about it, until now, curiosity gnawed at him. After a few hours, feeling restless, he decided to take a break and wandered back to the lobby. The mural loomed larger now, and as he approached, he squinted at the names etched along the bottom. He blinked, disbelief coursing through him. Was that his name? Did he dream it? The weight of that revelation settled on him. The shift that had been brewing inside since he joined this company felt distinctly real. But why was his name there? He was still an outsider, a newcomer trying to find his footing. Over the next few weeks, Lucas absorbed everything around him, the laughter echoing through the hallways, the lively discussions in break rooms, the hustle and bustle of life that filled the space, but he still felt out of place. One afternoon, while he was knee-deep in troubleshooting some system glitches, he got an urgent message from his supervisor. "Lucas, we need you in the server room." His heart sank. Panic rose as he rushed down the gray hallways, the sounds of stressed coworkers filtering through the walls. What if he couldn't fix this? Stepping into the server room was like plunging into an icy wave. Monitors flickered erratically and the atmosphere crackled with tension. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to focus. "I belong here," he mumbled, trying to convince himself as he faced the wall of flashing lights. He quickly got to work, poring over the chaos of code and error messages. Minutes felt like lifetimes as he wrestled with the issue, trying to sift through confusion. The adrenaline pumped through his veins, intensifying the fear that the entire office was depending on him. One flicker of hope emerged after several agonizing minutes. He found the source of the problem buried deep within the code. It was just a tiny error, a misplaced comma. With fingers flying over the keys, he made the fix and rebooted the system. As he hit enter, there was a pause and uncertain stillness before the monitors blinked back to life. Cheers echoed from the office outside. He stepped out, a surge of adrenaline making him feel invincible. The relief in the room was palpable. Colleagues clapped their hands, expressing gratitude and excitement. In that moment, the knot of doubt that had been strangling him loosened, and the high fives and cheers washed over him like a tidal wave of acceptance. Rachel was there among the crowd, her eyes shining. "You did it, Lucas." For the first time, Lucas felt a flicker of pride igniting within him. He was not just the new guy anymore. He was Lucas Chang, part of something bigger. It was exhilarating and terrifying at once. Weeks continued to blur into months, and Lucas found himself thriving. Each day brought new challenges, but with each victory, he grew more confident. He even started collaborating with Rachel on some projects, their energies combining into a dynamic duo that lifted both of them. But as much as he thrived in the environment, fear still lingered in the corners of his mind. What if it all crashed down? What if one mistake shattered everything? Every time those thoughts crept in, he would revisit that mural, grounding himself with the idea that he belonged here. Months rolled on and the company announced a major conference, a chance for employees to showcase their projects, share ideas, and connect with the broader industry. Lucas hesitated. Could he really present? The idea of standing in front of sharp-minded professionals sent panic swirling again. Rachel was adamant. "You've got this. Just think about how far you've come." He wanted to believe her, but standing before a room filled with seasoned professionals seemed daunting. Yet deep down he knew he needed this. He wanted to step out from the shadows and show others who Lucas Chang really was. The realization that the mural bore his name didn't just represent belonging, it spoke of his potential. That night he paced his apartment beneath the glow of the city lights drawn to the skyline outside. With determination brewing, he began to prepare. He practiced day and night, focusing on his message, his ideas, and above all, his unique voice. This was not just a presentation, it was an opportunity to redefine his narrative. The day of the conference arrived and the air buzzed with excitement. Lucas stood backstage, heart racing, as he listened to other speakers captivate the audience. With each round of applause, his confidence ebbed and flowed. Finally, it was his turn. As he stepped into the spotlight, the room fell silent. He felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him, but he remembered the exhilaration of solving that network issue, the applause that followed. He took a deep breath. He began to speak, channeling every ounce of passion and clarity he possessed. He shared ideas that flowed from his heart, and the moment he saw nods of encouragement, the fear slowly melted away. Laughter and engagement bubbled in the room, and he leaned into the connection with his audience. By the time he finished, he felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. The applause that erupted was thunderous, igniting something deep inside him that had laid dormant for too long. Lucas walked off that stage feeling renewed, transformed. He had faced his fears, stepped into the unknown, and emerged not just successful, but empowered. When he made his way back to his colleagues, Rachel was waiting for him, smiling ear to ear. She exclaimed, pulling him into a hug. Days turned into weeks again, but this time, every interaction felt different. Friends and colleagues now saw him not as the newcomer, but as an integral part of the family they had built. He joined in the laughter, contributed ideas, and felt that sense of belonging solidify around him. And as he strolled through the lobby, he paused again before the mural. Lucas Chang, it read, his name bold and confident, a testament to the journey he had taken. In that moment, he understood. That mural wasn't just about belonging, it was a reminder of potential, resilience, and the stories yet to unfold. With a big smile, he turned away, ready to embrace what lay ahead, fueled by courage and purpose. Life was calling, and he was ready to answer. He stepped into the elevator, knowing that every door held an opportunity and every moment could change everything. The elevator doors were sliding shut when Lucas saw her. He hesitated for just a moment, watching her rush toward him, her expression a mix of urgency and panic. Without thinking, he reached out, wedging his hand between the steel panels just before they closed. He shouted. She slipped inside with a breath of relief, her eyes wide. "Thank you." He couldn't help but smile as the door closed behind them. There was something infectious about her energy. She replied, glancing at her watch, a hint of anxiety flashing across her face. "I'm late for a meeting." "Good luck," he said, offering an encouraging nod. She didn't just need luck, she had a spark about her, a fire in her eyes that hinted at the ambition bubbling beneath the surface. As the elevator began its ascent, he felt a shift within himself, a rush of excitement mixed with nervousness. He was fresh in this job at a prestigious firm, and here he was now, sharing a ride with someone who seemed like she ruled the world. "I'm Lucas, by the way," he said, extending his hand in a friendly gesture. "Rachel," she said, shaking his hand firmly, and he felt a jolt of connection. The elevator glided up smoothly, and he caught the scent of her lavender perfume. It was intoxicating. She asked, eyes sparking with curiosity. "Yeah, just started in it, still figuring things out, honestly," he admitted, a bit of uncertainty creeping into his voice. Rachel laughed lightly. "You'll get the hang of it. Just remember, it is the backbone of everything." He chuckled, but inside, doubt began creeping back in. Heroes belonged in stories, someone who saved the day, who took bold action. He was just a new guy trying to not mess things up. As they approached the 15th floor, he couldn't shake the feeling that in this building, everyone was someone. The elevator dinged, and she stepped out, turning to wave goodbye. As the doors closed behind her, he felt an unexpected pang of loss, as if the moment held significance he couldn't quite grasp. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, the city around him pulsed with life. Lucas settled into his role, but the anxiety lingered like a shadow. He found himself frequently wandering the halls, trying to find his place among colleagues who seemed so assured, so confident. The countless names on office doors, VPs, directors, leads made him feel small. One day, he decided to explore the building further. He found a stunning mural in the lobby, a magnificent display capturing the skyline outside. The colors danced across the artwork, brilliant blues, fiery reds, but as he examined it more closely, his breath caught. He blinked, disbelief hitting him like a wave. Was it a coincidence? Surely there were many Lucas Changs in the world, but at that moment it felt personal, as if the universe was winking at him. He noted the pride and vulnerability flooding his chest. This building, this company had a place for him, and yet a whisper of doubt crept in. Did he deserve to be there? Around him, the office hummed with activity. Laughter echoed in the hallways, excitement buzzing from one meeting room to the next. Meanwhile, he felt like he was still playing catch-up, an imposter trying to convince everyone, and most of all himself, that he belonged. The tech department was busy, and one afternoon the network unexpectedly crashed, sending chaos throughout the office. Panic surged in Lucas's chest as he received an urgent message. "We need you in the server room." Heart racing, he rushed down the hallway, hands clammy against each other. What if he couldn't resolve the issue? What if he froze under pressure? He took a deep breath, reminding himself of the mural, the reminder that he was meant to be here. Server room, the atmosphere was charged, the flickering monitors casting a harsh glow across the room. He faced the wall of screens, each flashing error messages. His chest tightened. Everyone was counting on him, and for a moment dread washed over him, nearly paralyzing. But deep down, conviction began to stir. He focused his mind, diving into the chaos of code. With each keystroke, a sense of determination wrapped around his thoughts. This was it. This was his moment. Minutes crawled by like hours. His heart pounded in rhythm with the rapid clicks of his keyboard. He began to lose himself in the problem, allowing the tension to melt away. Then he found it, a tiny glitch, a misplaced code that had thrown everything into disarray. Could it really be that simple? Hands shaking with adrenaline, he hit enter to execute the fix. The screen flickered and the lights stabilized. The network was back online. A cheer echoed outside the server room. Lucas stepped out, his breath escaping in a rush of relief. Colleagues clapped him on the back, excitement filling the air. Rachel was there, her face lit up with triumph. "You did it, Lucas." In that moment, he felt a spark ignite inside him, an ember of confidence slowly fanning into flame. For so long he had doubted himself, but now, as validation washed over him, a realization began to surface. That mural bearing his name wasn't just a coincidence after all. Lucas dove headfirst into his work, thriving with newfound energy. He led initiatives, collaborated on projects, and even became a mentor for newer employees. But as he flourished in his role, every new challenge came with a nagging fear. What if he slipped back into uncertainty? What if he made one mistake and everything crumbled? The company announced a major conference, giving employees a chance to showcase their work. Lucas's heart began to race. Could he stand up and represent his team? The thought terrified him. Memories of that first elevator ride came flooding back, the doubt, the fear. One evening, Lucas stood on his balcony, watching the sun set over the city skyline. He thought back to that moment he had held the elevator door for Rachel. That small choice had set off a chain of events that had transformed his life. What if this conference was the next step in that journey? He knew he had to try. Began to prepare, practicing day and night, honing in on the message he wanted to share. With every rehearsal, he began to visualize the audience engaging, nodding, reacting positively. This wasn't just about him, it was about the entire team and what they had achieved together. The day of the conference arrived, and tension wrapped around the room like a tightening noose. The energy buzzed, but Lucas felt a familiar itch of anxiety creeping in. What if he stumbled? Would anyone care about what he had to say? Finally, it was his turn. When his name was called, he made his way to the stage, taking a deep breath. The bright lights felt blinding, but he focused on the faces in the crowd. He remembered the mural. He thought of Rachel, the way she inspired him to push beyond his limits, and then he began to speak. Words flowed out, a mix of excitement and trepidation wrapped around each sentence. He shared not just facts and figures, but the story of what had driven him and his team. As he spoke, he could see heads nodding, eyes lighting up. When he finished, applause erupted like thunder. Lucas grinned wide, feeling a rush of validation wash over him. In that moment, he was no longer the timid newcomer. He was Lucas Chang, contributing something real. After the event, he was flooded with congratulations and warm praise. Handshakes, high fives, and cheers surrounded him. Rachel squeezed through the crowd and hugged him tightly. She exclaimed. Familiar faces became friends, and the journey truly began for Lucas. He found himself joining teams, pushing initiatives, and taking risks he never would have imagined before. He learned to embrace every opportunity that came his way. Months later, on another quiet afternoon, Lucas took a moment to reflect. There in the same lobby where he had first seen his name, he stood before the mural again. He took it all in, the colors, the skyline, the significance of it all. No longer just his name, it was a symbol of transformation, of resilience, and of growth. He turned away, confident and ready for whatever the future held. Each new door was not a challenge to be overcome, but an opportunity to unlock something incredible. As he stepped back into the flow of the office, he knew that he was just getting started. In that vast city, there was still so much to explore, so many more stories to be written. And as the world continued to move around him, he realized that he held the key. The elevator doors would always be there, just waiting for him to step inside and embrace the adventure ahead. The elevator doors were about to close when Lucas spotted her, a flash of panic crossing her face. Without thinking, he lunged forward, pressing the button to keep the door from shutting. She slipped inside, breathless and grateful. "Thank you." Something about her energy sparked something in him. She looked like she belonged here, confident, purposeful. As the doors closed, the air between them crackled with a sense of possibility. He asked, trying to sound casual, though his heart raced. She replied, glancing at her watch, urgency in her voice. He said, genuinely hoping she would crush it. He could already feel a connection beginning to form. As the elevator ascended, he found himself stealing glances at her. She exuded a kind of vibrancy that was hard to ignore. "I'm Lucas, by the way," he said, wanting to know her better. "Rachel," she said, shaking his hand firmly. Her grip was confident. "Just started in it," he added, trying to convey a bit about himself, hoping she'd be impressed. She replied, "It is crucial here." He laughed, but inside he felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. Hero, he only recently graduated, and here he was sharing an elevator with someone who seemed to already be part of something bigger. The elevator glided smoothly, stopping on the 15th floor. Rachel stepped out, but before the doors closed, she turned back to him. As the elevator descended, he felt a strange ache inside, the kind that comes from connections not yet fully formed. He decided to shake it off, but thoughts of her lingered in his mind like an unwelcome guest. The days flowed into a blur: meetings, tasks, and the constant buzz of corporate life. Lucas was determined to find his footing, but the anxiety settled deep in his gut. Everyone seemed so assured, their conversations threaded with confidence. The names on the doors around him proclaimed authority: directors, managers, executives. Each title felt like a mountain within reach, but impossibly high for someone like him. Despite the heaviness, he kept pushing forward. A month passed, and as he navigated the fluorescent-lit halls, he overheard snippets of conversations that ignited his passion. People talked about projects that excited them, challenges that invigorated them. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was merely observing a world he wasn't part of. One afternoon, craving fresh air, he took a walk outside the building. He paused at the grand entryway, breathing in the pulse of the city. The sunlight sparkled off the glass skyscrapers as if they were winking at him, daring him to aspire. Then he noticed the mural, large and beautiful. It depicted the skyline of the city, and he couldn't help but admire the artistry. His breath hitched in his throat. Was this some kind of joke? He blinked again, checking to see if he was imagining it. Surely there were many Lucas Changs in the world, but this felt too personal, too profound. It was as if the universe was nodding at him, acknowledging his presence. Over the following weeks, Lucas found comfort in that mural as he faced the day-to-day challenges of his job. He threw himself into his responsibilities, learning everything he could. Yet, the nagging uncertainty whispered to him like a dark cloud. Did he truly belong here? One hectic morning, chaos erupted in the office when the network crashed. Panic flooded the hallways and people rushed about like ants in disarray. He felt the weight of the world crash down on his shoulders, dread settling in. What if he messed this up? Heads turned as he dashed down the hallway, the echoes of chaos growing louder. Could he really fix this? He pushed through the door of the server room, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. Monitors blinked erratically, error messages flashing like code of doom. Taking a deep breath, he felt paralyzed for a moment, uncertainty threatening to unhinge him. But he remembered the mural. He remembered Rachel's encouraging words. This was his moment. It was time to step into the role he'd been given. His fingers danced over the keyboard as he dove into the code, each line unraveling like a story begging to be told. Minutes spiraled into what felt like an eternity, but finally he found the source of the problem. A simple error, one that could be fixed with a quick flick of a key. With a pounding heart, he corrected the issue, pressed enter, and watched the screens flicker back to life. Relief washed over him like a wave breaking on the shore. He could hear the shouts of joy and laughter ringing outside. He stepped out of the server room and his colleagues erupted in applause. It was a glorious sound, a mixture of gratitude and excitement. Someone shouted from the back. Rachel was there, her face radiant with pride. He felt a rush of emotion, adrenaline mixing with a warmth that spread through his chest. Maybe he could do this. Maybe he did belong here. The knot of self-doubt began to unravel thread by thread, except as the days passed, the excitement wore off. Lucas knew he was still on shaky ground. Every high came with the inevitable low. As he settled into his role, he began to second-guess himself. What if it was all a fluke? What if next time he failed? Then came the announcement of the annual company retreat, a chance to showcase projects, share ideas, and gain visibility. Lucas's enthusiasm quickly soured. Could he really stand in front of the entire company? The thought made him uneasy. The moments of praise he had received felt like distant echoes, rapidly fading away. He could hear the insecurities whispering in his ear, "You're not ready." One night, standing on his balcony overlooking the twinkling lights of the city, he faced the reflection of his own doubts, but he also recalled Rachel's unwavering encouragement. That small act of kindness, a few words exchanged in an elevator, had sparked something in him. He wondered, what if he put himself out there? What if he took a leap of faith? The very essence of connection bubbled up inside him, and he committed to preparing for that retreat. Practices became routines. He learned to communicate his ideas clearly, combining passion and insights into a cohesive presentation. The day of the retreat dawned, and Lucas was a bundle of nerves. Riding the elevator up to the venue, he felt like he was ascended into the unknown. Panic fluttered in his chest like a caged bird. When his name was finally called, time seemed to slow. Standing at the front, eyes upon him, the spotlight blazed down, temporarily blinding him. He could feel his palms begin to sweat, his heart pounding against his ribs. Then he took a deep breath, letting memories of the mural guide his thoughts. He focused on Rachel's face filled with warmth and encouragement. One step at a time, he began to speak. With each word, a wave of confidence began to wash over him. He shared the story behind his projects, the vision that drove him, and how collaboration had ignited their success. Heads in the audience nodded, eyes brightened, and when he finished, the applause was thunderous. It wasn't just a round of applause, it was a life-affirming roar of acceptance. Lucas felt tears welling in his eyes. For the first time, he didn't just feel like the new guy he belonged. Later that evening, as the retreat concluded, Lucas found himself surrounded by smiles and clamoring congratulations. Rachel found him among the crowd and enveloped him in a hug. She exclaimed. He was riding a high, but as the sun dipped beyond the skyline, he remembered the mural, the legacy of his name woven into the fabric of the building. Months went by. Lucas transformed from the hesitant newcomer to a vital player in the company. He engaged in initiatives that excited him, built friendships, and learned to embrace the unpredictability of corporate life. Yet one evening, amidst the hustle and bustle, Lucas felt an unexpected urge to revisit that mural. It resonated louder now, a declaration of everything he had battled through. No longer just a little flicker of light, it felt like a flame, a testament to resilience and growth. As he reflected on where he had started and how far he had come, he felt gratitude swell within him. That name wasn't merely a reminder of where he had been, it was a symbol of limitless potential. With a smile on his face and a renewed sense of purpose, Lucas turned to leave, knowing he was ready for the next chapter, ready to embrace every opportunity that awaited. Life was a continuous journey, and each moment was another chance to step into the elevator, to hold that door open, and to step boldly into whatever came next. The elevator doors were about to close when Lucas spotted her, a moment of panic flaring in her eyes. Without thinking, he reached out and pressed the button to reopen the doors. He shouted. She slipped inside just in time, a relieved smile breaking across her face. "Thank you." Lucas felt something shift within him as the doors closed. There was a spark of energy in the air as they stood side by side, suspended between floors. He asked, trying to sound casual despite the flutter in his stomach. 15, she replied, glancing down at her watch. "I'm late for a meeting," he said, genuinely wishing her well. This was just an elevator ride, but something told him it was a moment that mattered. As the elevator lurched upward, he couldn't help but glance over at her. She was striking, with sharp features and a bright, determined gaze. "I'm Lucas," he said, introducing himself, feeling an unexpected warmth in the space between them. "Rachel," she replied, shaking his hand, her grip firm and sure. "So you're the new IT guy," he chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm still figuring things out, honestly." Rachel laughed lightly. "That's normal, just remember, it is the lifeblood of this place." He smiled, but inside, the familiar tight knot of self-doubt twisted. Hero, that concept felt miles away. Here he was, just a few weeks into his first job, and the expectations loomed larger than the building they were inside. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened on the 15th floor. Rachel stepped out, turning back just long enough to give him a bright smile. As the door slid closed, Lucas felt a pang of something, anticipation or regret, he couldn't tell. He was left standing alone as the elevator descended, the vibrant energy from their brief encounter still lingering in the air. Back on the 8th floor, he settled into his space, surrounded by the buzz of colleagues working diligently at their desks. The whir of computers and low murmur of conversations filled the room. He had a desk and he had a paycheck, but sometimes it felt like he was playing a part in someone else's story. Over the next few weeks, he immersed himself in his duties, trying to learn everything he could. Each day brought new challenges, but the anxiety never fully left him. People around him moved with purpose. They were asked to give their input on projects, share their ideas in meetings, and he felt like a ghost wandering through it all. Days turned into weeks, and he often found himself lost in daydreams, staring out the window at the bustling city below. Each morning he passed by the sprawling mural that adorned the lobby wall, a stunning depiction of the skyline. It was a canvas filled with promise, painted in hues of azure and gold, yet he felt disconnected from it. His heart raced. He blinked hard, trying to convince himself that he wasn't imagining things. How could his name be there? It felt surreal, and yet the deeper he looked, the more it felt like a sign. He stood frozen for a split second, grappling with disbelief. This couldn't be a coincidence, but doubt quickly crept back in. Who was he to deserve recognition when all he felt was uncertainty? As the weeks passed, the anxiety continued to mix with the exhilaration of starting a new job. Lucas would steal glances at the mural often, each time feeling a little spark of hope. But it was a delicate flame, one that could be snuffed out by a single failure. One afternoon, chaos erupted when the entire network went down suddenly and the office simmered with tension. Panic surged through him as his chest tightened. Could he handle this? What if he couldn't solve the problem? He rushed through the maze of desks, hearing the hum of anxiety swirling around him like a thick cloud. Every step felt heavier, every heartbeat drummed with pressure. He burst into the server room where panic hung in the air. Monitors blinked erratically, error messages flashing ominously. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to focus. As much as he felt the weight of responsibility, he also felt the need to prove himself. This was his moment. He was not just Lucas Chang, a name on the mural or a confused rookie. This was a chance to show what he was capable of. His fingers hovered over the keyboard like a musician preparing to perform. Minutes felt like hours as he pored over lines of code, trying to locate the source of the problem. His heart raced, and with every click his anxiety climbed until finally, there it was, a simple error hidden in the strings of text. The world held its breath for a moment, and the monitors flickered back to life. Relief washed over him as cheers erupted from outside the server room. Lucas stepped out, greeted by a tidal wave of applause. Someone shouted, and there, in the midst of it all, stood Rachel. Her proud smile illuminated the room. She called out. In that instant, something inside him transformed. The knot of self-doubt that had plagued him began to unravel, thread by thread. Maybe he did belong here. Days turned into weeks again, and Lucas found himself at the center of projects, brainstorming sessions, and even helping mentor interns who joined the team. His confidence grew, but still, shadows of doubt occasionally whispered in his ear. Then came the announcement, the annual company retreat, a chance for employees to showcase their work and share insights. The thought filled him with dread. Could he stand before everyone and speak? What if he fumbled? As the days rolled by, he wrestled with the decision. He paced his apartment one evening, watching the sun dip behind the skyline, casting colors across the heavens, pondering a question that gnawed at him deep inside. What if he didn't try? What if he let the fear hold him back yet again? He clung to the memory of Rachel's encouragement. If she believed in him, maybe he could believe in himself too. Fueled by a newfound sense of ambition, he threw himself into preparation. Night after night, he practiced his presentation, weaving his passion into the words he would share. Finally, the day arrived. Lucas stood backstage, heart racing. He could hear the low hum of excitement from the crowd, and the dread pooled in his stomach. What if he choked? What if he disappointed everyone? When his name echoed through the speakers, he stepped forward, feeling like he was stepping into the spotlight of his entire life. The bright lights felt blinding, but he took a deep breath, remembering the mural and what it represented. He centered himself and began to speak, pouring his heart into every word. As he shared his story, ideas flowed seamlessly from him, igniting sparks of enthusiasm in the audience. He talked about teamwork, the lessons he had learned, and the power of pushing past self-doubt. He could see people nodding and smiling, and with each minute that passed, his confidence soared. When he finished, the room erupted in applause, a thunderous, affirming sound. Lucas stood frozen for a moment, absorbing the warmth of acceptance washing over him. He had stepped into the light, not just as the new guy, but as Lucas Chang, a contributor. Later, as he mingled with colleagues celebrating the day's success, Rachel rushed up to him. "You were incredible," she said, her eyes sparkling. Lucas felt his heart swell. "I couldn't have done it without all the support around me," he replied. As time continued to pass, Lucas transformed from the hesitant newcomer into an integral part of the company. He engaged in inspiring projects, built lasting friendships, and learned to embrace the unpredictable rhythm of corporate life. He felt the pull of adventure, the need to push beyond his comfort zone. On a whim, he decided to take a quiet moment to reflect on the mural once more. Standing before it, he let the entirety of his journey wash over him. Lucas Chang, it read in bold, elegant letters. This was more than just a name, it was a testament to resilience. Each letter echoed with the triumphs he had navigated, the obstacles he had faced, and the darkness he had pushed through. With newfound clarity, he turned away from the mural, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Each step was a new beginning, and every moment was an open door, eagerly inviting him to step inside. Life was full of endless journeys, and he was ready for all of them, armed with the courage that had bloomed from a simple decision to hold the elevator door open. As he stepped into the elevator that day, he knew he was not just a man with a name on a building. He was the architect of his own destiny, stepping confidently into a future filled with promise. The elevator doors began to close, but he saw her running down the hallway, desperately waving her arms. In that split second, instinct kicked in. Lucas lunged forward and pressed the button to hold the door open. He shouted. She stumbled in just as the doors slid shut again. She exclaimed, catching her breath. Lucas felt the rush of adrenaline, the relief on her face lit up the confined space. He asked, trying to shake off his lingering nerves. Being new in this towering skyscraper was both exhilarating and intimidating. 15, she replied, looking at her watch with a hint of panic. "I'm late for a meeting." She shook her head, her frustration melting into a smile as she glanced over at him. "Lucas," he said, shaking her hand, feeling an electric spark in that simple gesture. "Nice, it is the backbone of everything here," she said, her confidence contagious. It was refreshing to see someone who owned her space in this bustling environment. He chuckled, but inside, the knot in his stomach tightened. Hero, he was just a rookie, and the thought of failing felt like ice water coursing through his veins. The elevator hummed steadily as it made its ascent. Lucas stole glances at Rachel, noting the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her work. It made him wonder what it would feel like to be that confident, that secure in his place. As they neared the 15th floor, she fidgeted, checking her watch again. "I hope they haven't started yet," she said, her brow furrowing. The door dinged and she rushed out, turning back for a moment to flash a warm smile. And just like that, she was gone, leaving him standing alone in the elevator. As the doors closed behind him and he descended back down, the rush of their encounter lingered. He felt a strange mix of excitement and regret, as if he had just let something significant slip through his fingers. Days turned into weeks, and Lucas found himself lost in the rhythm of the office. Each day brought a torrent of information, an avalanche of tasks to complete, and an overwhelming feeling of being out of place. He often caught himself peering through the glass walls, watching his coworkers move like well-oiled machines, each with their unique rhythm. One afternoon, he decided to break free from the cycle of spreadsheets and code. Curious to find some fresh air, he wandered toward the lobby, running his fingers along the polished marble walls. That's when he noticed the mural, a breathtaking depiction of the city skyline outside, a vibrant mix of colorful buildings framed against the deep blue of the sky. As he stepped closer, he suddenly froze, his heart raced. He blinked hard, convinced he was hallucinating. How could that be? Surely there were many Lucas Changs in the world. His mind wrestled with disbelief, swirling between excitement and confusion. Was this a sign? Did he really belong here, or was it just a weird coincidence? The mural felt like a declaration, but he doubted himself just the same. In the days that followed, something extraordinary began to happen. With each small victory, fixing a bug, completing a project, or even just having a good conversation with his colleagues, he felt a flicker of that name etched on the mural. Maybe it wasn't a mere coincidence, maybe it represented potential. But as thrilling as the progress felt, Lucas still battled the heavy weight of self-doubt, especially when faced with challenges that left him second-guessing himself. One particularly hectic morning, an urgent message blared across the office. The network was down and chaos ensued. Colleagues scrambled, their voices rising like a frantic symphony of panic. Lucas felt the pit in his stomach grow deeper. Lucas, a voice called out urgently. Faces turned, some hopeful, others anxious. He felt the blood drain from his face, dread gripping him. Could he really handle this? What if he failed? With each step toward the server room, doubt clawed at him. But a flicker of determination sparked inside. This was his moment to show he belonged. Pushing through the door of the server room, he was hit with the electrifying pulse of machine hums and blinking lights. Fear surged alongside adrenaline. Time slowed as he stood in front of the array of screens, each displaying cryptic error messages. For a moment, he felt paralyzed. He took a deep breath, steadied his hands, and focused. "You can do this," he muttered under his breath, channeling every ounce of courage he could muster. This wasn't just a job, it was his chance to rise. Minutes felt like hours as he typed furiously, reading and rereading the code, when finally he spotted it. A minor error, something insignificant, yet it had spiraled into chaos. The system whirred back to life. He stepped out of the server room and a wave of applause crashed over him. Someone shouted from the back. His heart raced as he turned around to see Rachel, her face lit up with joy. She exclaimed, joining the growing crowd around him. In that moment, the weight of doubt slipped away, replaced by a rush of pride. Maybe the name on the mural wasn't just a coincidence. Maybe, just maybe, he truly belonged. Weeks continued to fly by and Lucas found himself gaining traction. He collaborated on exciting projects, offered insights, and even developed friendships within the office. Slowly, the confidence he had sought for so long began to take root, but lurking beneath the surface was the fear of losing it all. Every time he faced a new challenge, the old doubts crept in. Was he really capable of maintaining this momentum? Then the company announced the annual conference, a grand event where employees would showcase their work and ideas. Lucas felt the anxiety settle in again. The thought of standing in front of a crowd made his knees weak. What if he stumbled? What if they didn't believe in him? The week leading up to the conference was a blur of rehearsals, doubts, and late nights. He practiced in front of mirrors, speaking out loud, trying to drown out the voice that whispered he wasn't good enough. On the day of the conference, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. He stood backstage, anxiety swirling in his stomach like a storm. Each echo of applause instantly filled him with both dread and longing. Could he really step into that spotlight? When his name was called, he felt his heart race. As he walked onto the stage, bright lights blinded him briefly. A wave of panic washed over him. Memories flooded back: the mural, Rachel's encouraging smile, and all the moments that had led him here. But as he began to speak, something shifted. He felt the weight of the room's attention turn from pressure to warmth. He shared stories, insights, and lessons that opened up not just the numbers, but the human experience behind the work. The audience leaned in, their interest palpable. He finished to thunderous applause, the kind that reverberated in his bones. In that moment, he wasn't just Lucas Chang, the new kid. He was part of something larger, an integral piece of this vibrant tapestry. Once the event concluded, Lucas felt a surge of enthusiasm. Compliments flooded in from colleagues. Rachel approached him, her eyes gleaming. She said, her excitement contagious. He grinned, a smile that stretched from ear to ear. The joy bubbled within him. This was what he had waited for, worked for, fought against, doubt for. As he walked through the lobby later, he found himself drawn back to the mural. The name at the bottom seemed to shine brighter now. But But just as he turned to leave, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Rachel. "There's something important I need to discuss with you." A wave of uncertainty washed over him as he glanced back at the mural one last time. What could she want? Was something about to change? His heart raced again. This could be his chance to finally connect on a deeper level with Rachel, or could it be something else? He hurriedly made his way to the lobby, feeling excitement churn with apprehension, wondering if this pivotal moment would define his journey once and for all. As he rounded the corner, he spotted Rachel standing there. She looked serious, her expression uncharacteristically tense. "Lucas," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to talk." He scrambled to grasp her tone. Before she could answer, a loud rumble echoed through the lobby. The lights flickered suddenly, and panic began to spread like wildfire through the crowd, the air filled with confusion and urgency. Lucas glanced at Rachel, and in that moment he realized this was more than just a conversation. Everything was about to change, and it was up to him to navigate the chaos that was unfolding around them. With the sound of sirens blaring outside and the world beginning to shake, Lucas felt a surge of adrenaline, the need to respond rising within him. Was he ready to step up again, to meet whatever challenge loomed ahead? This moment could define not just his journey, but the fate of those around him. He looked back at Rachel, ready to face this unknown, feeling the rush of possibility coursing through his veins. The elevator doors that once opened for him had now led him to this point of no return, a defining moment waiting to unfold.